All right, I have had some time to sit and think after my final thoughts video on Cyberpunk 2077, the 2.0 update, and the Phantom Liberty DLC. Been playing a little bit more of the side missions and side quests around town. I finished my playthrough, that's why I did the final thoughts video. But I usually like to sit on things and dabble a little bit more before I put together my final review, and we're there. The short version is if this would have been the game that launched 3 years ago, I think that CD Projekt Red, I think this would have sold more copies of any other game that had ever sold to date. As it stands now, I think they're in the ballpark of like 25 million, which puts them up in the upper echelons of like top five best-selling games of like all time when you consider single-player RPGs that have been out, for a few years. Um, and I think this would have done way better if this was the game that had launched. Looking at it as it stands now, with all of the updates in place, playing it on the Xbox Series X, before I even get into all of the things I want to rave about with this game, this took the title away from me for best single player RPG I've ever played, which previously was The Witcher 3. And since The Witcher 3, even the base game, even when Cyberpunk 2077 first came out, I did not give it that title. It was a good game, it was a great game, but it was plagued with bugs, and it just didn't feel like it was that special. But all of the updates they included in 2.0 with the revamped skill trees and everything else, and then the Phantom Liberty DLC and vehicle missions and the new soundtracks, and I mean, just this to me is a cultural masterpiece, kind of up there with like Red Dead Redemption 2, like Witcher 3. I mean, Witcher 3, if you go back to the Golden Joystick Awards, that was the game that swept the ceremony because it was so mind-bogglingly amazing for what had been released compared to all the things that had come before. And I think for me, if this game had launched in this state 3 years ago, it would have done the same thing. But it didn't. And unfortunately, they had to make a redemption arc to get it to where it is today. And CD Projekt Red pulled it off. They could have gone with a different direction. They could have pulled an EA and like what EA did with Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, and just abandoned the game and moved on to other things. But instead, they decided to do right by their community and fix it and get it better, and it worked. This is, in my mind, like I said, it's the best single player RPG I've ever played. It's just the amount of content that this game offers with not only the standard quests, but also the new vehicle quests and all the new radio stations, which I previously mentioned, and just the sheer amount of side missions and side gigs and the police. The way the police things work now, where you have the different ratings of how wanted you are, and then getting into max tech territory where they come after you. Um, all of the different options for the quests that you have, the voiceovers, the motion capture, the performances by folks like Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba, and all of the other amazing talented actors and actresses that brought this game to life. This is just simply an amazing experience. It is a single player RPG that is without comparison. There are other games that have come close. I would argue that when you look at games that provide you a living, breathing world, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the other game I can think of that provides me with a living, breathing world where things are continually going on regardless of your actions as a player. But even Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't come as close to this game in terms of how the city is kind of always evolving, if that makes sense. Because even Red Dead Redemption 2 has some staticness to it, whereas this game with the Radiant system and everything else can kind of keep going on and on and on if you want it to. You very much can have this life in Night City, this being the mercenary. And something that I never even got into was like buying you can get new housing and new apartments and all this other stuff across Night City. I never finished collecting all of the vehicles that you can get with the new system. And that's something that I'm keeping this installed on my Xbox because I'm just going to keep diving into Night City. It might only be once or twice a month, but I'm going to keep playing this for this foreseeable future because it's just too much fun to put away. I think that the combination of gritty realism, the genuine open world environment where there are very few loading screens. When I played, I came right off of Starfield to play this, and it was like so jarring of a transition to go from Starfield with its infinite loading screens to Cyberpunk 2077 where it has almost no loading screens. And even when you're like driving in your car and it loads the next sequence, it's a split second hitch where you'll see that disc spinning on screen, and that's it. It's a split second. It's almost imperceptible. It's so it's so quick that it happens. Um, it's just I think that this is the pinnacle of what single player RPGs need to strive to become. And it's not just for me, it's not just the game design. You had great gunplay in this game. You had an amazing amount of weapons to choose from, different types of grenades to choose from, the different modifications for your weapons, smart weapons, power weapons, tech weapons, and all the ways that you can make the weapons work for your playstyle with the new skill trees was freaking phenomenal. Like I ended up going with because I'm not that great of a shooter, so I went with smart weapons because you get the target lock. And when I blended that together with my Netrunner build, it was like Netrunner with tech and then stealth in the back end. And I've done a couple of guides around this character. That build for me felt so amazingly overpowered that by the time I got to like the end where I was getting into the end game, I actually turned the difficulty up because it was like this I feel like I'm OP at this point because I have a maxed out um, intelligence tree with all of my smart weapon stuff maxed out and all of my different cyberpunk abilities, my cyber abilities, and then going into the tech tree and maxing out all of my cyber tech stuff so that I get the maximum amount of bonuses from all of that. I think that when you look at just the game design, the way they blend the gunplay in with the different Netrunner abilities is just flabbergasting to think about. And then there's the melee side of things, which I never even got into. But you can watch videos out there on the internet of people who went with the I can't remember what the ability is called, but you can slow down time and use melee weapons. And I've seen people do some crazy stuff on the internet where they're like, slow down time, jump out of the car, decapitate a couple of mobs, jump back in their cars, start time up again, and speed off before anyone even knows what happened. Like, there are some crazy builds you can build in this game with the new skill trees and all the new weapons and new abilities. So it's not just about gunplay, it's also got great melee combat, even though that's not the way I like to play the game. You don't even have to take net running abilities if you don't want to. You could play as just a melee build and have just as much fun. There were moments of just sheer joy in this game where it's hard to put a finger on. It's kind of like a combination of really good writing with really good acting. Because Keanu Reeves as Johnny Silverhand is just amazing, but Idris Elba also came in and just cleared house with his character, and also the girl they've got playing the counter to that, who has I forget her name now off the top of my head. I only did one run through the DLC, and that was like a month ago. Star Song, I think is her name. Like all the voice actors, and like I remember when I first met the president, and you're going through the early stages of the Phantom Liberty DLC, and I was like, man, this bitch is cold-hearted. Like this is a cold-blooded. You don't fuck with her. Like it really feels authentic, and it really pulls you into the game with a combination of the way the game looks and feels to the way the actors are pulling things off. And this is a game where I traditionally I'm not a big fan because I'm not very good at driving around. So like GTA 5, I suck at driving. As a result, I just kind of avoid the driving as much as I can, even though it's a big part of the game. But this game, I found it genuinely pleasant to just get different vehicles and go drive them around because they all look and sound really cool. And also the music. There was nothing more enjoyable to me. And if you've watched any of my streams, I'll get lost for 45 minutes and I'll just drive around town listening to the various tracks that they've got because they've got all these music stations that you can listen to depending on what your mood is. And then a lot of what I was doing was with the streamer mode enabled, so that I have a lot of the music turned off so that you're not getting dinged for copyright stuff. So if you're not streaming the game or you're not doing content creation, you can keep that off and you have even more music to listen to. And it's really is an amazing time. And I think it was it might have been Bubbaloni, it might have been somebody else. A couple months back, someone said that in our community said that Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the best games they've ever played in terms of making you feel like you're in the middle of your own episode of like a spy thriller every single time you play, because every single one of the like major side missions, not side gigs are a little different. Side gigs are the quickies that you can do in like 15, 20 minutes, but like the side missions, the side jobs. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Side jobs and main jobs all give you this episodic content that can be anywhere from 45 minutes long to 2 or 3 hours long. And each time it's a fully encompassing episode. It's its own thing, entirely independent of all the other storyline, because it is a gig, it's a job. You're a mercenary in Night City doing jobs for clients, and it's its own thing, and it has its own voice actors and its own motion capture and its own story that's just within its own little bubble. And a lot of those stories end up having follow-up stuff that comes back as you continue to play the game. You'll have somebody that contacts you 3 or 4 days later, or a week later, or 2 weeks later in the game, and has a follow-up for you. And so it's like I said, apart from Red Redemption 2, it's one of those games that really made me feel as though I'm living in an actual world. And that's something that should not be understated. And again, this is where I come back against people who will say that CD Projekt Red should never be allowed to come back because they had such a horrible launch when this game came out, and they should never be trusted again, and everything else. And I look at those people and I genuinely say, you're an idiot. I'm just going to call that like I see it, because everybody and every company deserves a second chance. Like, you telling me you have never screwed up, you've never fucked up once in your life and deserve to come back from that? And when people say that CD Projekt Red doesn't deserve the accolades that they're getting for 2.0 and Phantom Liberty, that's just stupidity. Because this is an absolutely amazing game in the state that it is now. It was not that good when it came out. I played on the PS4 Slim. I've been very open about this. I initially reviewed the game and said it's a great game, but it's a buggy hot mess. I'm blue screening all the time, constantly crashing. It's very difficult. I can't stream the game because of all the crashing, so I'm just going to play it offline and enjoy it, for its own thing. And I had a lot of fun with it, but I only did like a 60-hour playthrough and I was done. I came back with 2.0 and Phantom Liberty and just did like a 150-hour playthrough, and I only cleared about, I would argue, about 60% of the side gigs and side missions that the game has to offer. So there's still a ton more that I've never seen in my first couple of playthroughs that I can keep going through at my leisure. And that's to me the sign of a good game, or of a great game, a cultural masterpiece, as it were, where I know that I'm going to be able to get hundreds of hours of gameplay out of it, and I would absolutely be happy to play this a third time. And that's something that doesn't happen with very many games. Red Dead Redemption 2, I've done twice and started a third, but I got busy. Um, I really enjoyed like Baldur's Gate 2, that game I've played multiple times. Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, Icewind Dale 1 and 2, those games I've all played over the years. Dragon Age Origins, I've played that over the years. But those are CRPGs, not necessarily, single player RPGs. I've done, like, as good as God of War and God of War Ragnarok were. I've no desire to play those a second time. Like, those were good. Those were great. Maybe at some point down the road I might go back and play those again, but one time was enough. There were linear games. Jedi Fallen Order I did twice. Jedi Survivor I did once, and I kind of have no desire to go back and do it a second time. At least not right now. Maybe in a year or two I might go back, but Red Dead Redemption is one of those games. Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm always willing to jump back in, and Cyberpunk 2077, along with Witcher 3, are all games that I'm happy to just jump back in over and over and over the years. Witcher 3, I've done 2 full playthroughs, and I started a third playthrough when I bought the Xbox Series X optimized version that came out like a year ago or something, and I started a playthrough and ultimately got sidetracked with other stuff. But Cyberpunk 2077 2.0 with the Phantom Liberty DLC is the best single player RPG I've ever played. 10 out of 10. I'd give it 100 out of 10 if I could. Like, it was just an amazing experience, and like I said, I really wish this would have been the game that they launched with. Xbox Series X, I saw next to nothing on in terms of bugs. There were a couple of times. I remember one thing is like I remember slamming my motorcycle into the side of a moving vehicle and during a chase sequence, and I went flipping over through the air, head over heels, and landed. And when I turned around, my bike was stuck in the environment. Um, but that's a one-off thing. I think I might have come across two or three things. There was that, and I remember before one of the patches they did for the Xbox version of 2.0, um, there was an instance where I crashed my bike into a market stall, and like when the explosion happened, all of the lights started flickering really weirdly. And all I needed to do was just just reload a quick save, and that went away. So there was a couple of little quirky things, but that was it. There was no bugs, there was no jank, there was no mismatched audio. All of the things that I saw when the game first came out. I had zero crashes on the Xbox. Just an all-around damn good time, and I really wish more companies would make games like this, where I can jump in and have a super immersive experience and feel like I'm living in a living, breathing world as opposed to just playing a video game. So, for me, final review: 10 out of 10, flawless, cultural masterpiece, best single-player RPG I've ever played. I wonder how long that'll stand. I can't wait to see what they're going to come out with for the second game in this series, and of course, whatever's going to be next in the Witcher franchise. I'm on board with whatever CD Projekt Red produces. I don't care if they have hiccups now and again. Any company that's been around for 25 years is going to have their hiccups along the way, and I'm okay with that. I've screwed up plenty in my life, so I know how that feels. So loved it. Love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next one, everybody. Stay safe. Happy gaming.